Hey everyone, welcome back to Bachelor Happy Hour. I'm Joe.
And I'm Serena.
And we are here today with Justin Glaze. Justin, I love when I could just say the last name and just smooth.
You have a good name, Justin
yeah.
Glaze.
Welcome,
Thank you, guys.
Welcome to Bachelor Happy Hour.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Of
Good
course. I think this is is this the first time that we've ever been across from each other on a podcast?
It actually may be, now
Yeah.
that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Which is shocking.
Yeah,
But-
we'll see how this goes. Okay, so you go back on Bachelor in Paradise. Is this your second or third time on the show?
Don't do me like that, Joe. Second.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. I was like pretty sure, but things got a little mixed up because we had that fucking season off. So I was like,
Right.
I just
Well,
get a little confused.
you also on your season of Paradise, you left and then you came back.
That's what it is.
That's
Yes,
what it
that's
is.
what it is.
Fair. Yes.
So I mean, technically. I mean, listen, I
Guess-
went on twice as well, so I have no room to speak.
Not as well. You're the only one here that went on twice.
Huh?
You're the only one here that went on twice.
Well, Justin went on
No, you're
twice.
talking about me.
No, he went on one time. He's only been on Paradise once.
Well,
Now he's been on twice.
Oh, yeah.
no, that's my second one.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're a little brain fried.
What was? So we know that you were in a relationship with Susie prior to going on. I guess just before going on Bachelor in Paradise, what made you want to go on? I mean, you're single at this point. You guys had a breakup. How long ago was the breakup prior to going on the show?
So we broke up in June of 2024, I guess that would have been, right?
Okay.
And then we like kind of semi got back together, but we kept things like super private. So we, kind of tried things out for a few months after that, and then officially broke up. Well, we were broken up for several months after June, like through late fall, early winter, and then got back together for a little bit, and then broke up early at the beginning of the year.
Okay. And were you in a space where you're like, I'm ready to start dating, potentially get engaged?
Yeah, I mean, after that breakup, I hadn't seen anyone else and just took some time, put a lot of work in on myself, even through dating Susie, we were in couples therapy, individual therapy, and stuff like that. So I felt like I had made a lot of changes to myself, my way of thinking, my lifestyle. And so, yeah, I felt as ready as I've ever felt for another serious relationship and to, take that next step, especially as serious as my relationship was with Susie, where we were having conversations about marriage and kids and things like that. It's the first relationship I've been in where I've had those serious conversations that I actually thought were going to happen, in my life. And so you couple that with the work that I put in on myself, I definitely felt like I was in prime position to, take that next step with somebody.
Going into Paradise, you're ready for that next stage of life. Was there any other preparation you did or anything you did to get ready for it? And then was your hope to find the person that you will spend the rest of your life with when you got down there? Was that kind of what you maybe expected to find?
Well, I guess to answer your first question, the only other prep, stayed in therapy. Prep two, got a trainer, got to get yourself right. And then honestly, I was just so focused on work and like things that, as cliche as it sounds, were filling my cup. So I was just like staying busy with work, working out, painting, all the things that are healthy for me. I really hadn't put too much pressure on the outcome of Paradise. Like I didn't give them any names of who I wanted to see. Like I really didn't care. I knew what my intentions were going in. And if somebody matched up with that, great. And if not, I was like, I'll see myself out of here and get back to life.
Why did you and Susie break up?
There were a lot of little things that over time, kind of added up, nobody, and I think it actually kind of made the breakup tougher. I feel like it's almost easier when somebody does something where you can like point to it. And it's like, this is why we broke up,
Yeah.
right? But it's odd and it's hard because as similar of people as Susie and I are, like I've never been more compatible with somebody. We are inherently at our cores very different people, and I think that, it's a result of both of our, upbringings and relationship backgrounds, right? Um, both which are different between me and Susie, our upbringings and our relationship backgrounds, which have molded like who we each individually are. And so, I think we had a hard time really understanding each other and giving each other grace in the areas that we needed it. Like I'm a very logical person, for instance, and she's a very emotional person, right? And so we were struggling to meet each other where we needed to meet to get
Yeah.
through certain obstacles, right? So it's like two people can be so similar and so compatible, but like those little incompatibilities over time can just be such a hurdle. And what I will say, like I commend us both for really putting in the work to try to get through those things. And ultimately, we just had to look at each other and say, like, hey, like, are these incompatibilities significant enough where, we don't think that we can make this work? And that's kind of the point that we got to. And like I said, to me, it's almost harder because it's like, damn, like we're this close, to making something work and, something that potentially could have been great. Um, but yeah, that's kind of what it was.
Yeah, that's tough. Would
Yeah.
you say the breakup was more or less mutual?
It was. I mean, we had definitely, again, I think everyone has their, preferences and what they look for in a relationship and different tolerances and things like that, right? And so and I don't think either is better or worse, right? Like I know for me, and I think it's a matter of like like where you prioritize certain things in the relationship, right? And what you need at a certain point in your life, I guess. Um, but you know, sorry, that's a long-winded answer.
That's okay.
More or less, it was mutual. I mean, Susie brought up the conversation. Like I tend to be a person that like, I'm like, oh, we can get through it. We can get through it, right? Where it's like, okay, and for me, I hold such high value in like what I call like that X factor of just being best friends, right? Like Susie's my best friend, and I've never had a relationship like that, and I know that I need somebody like that as a partner. Like I need a best friend, right? Where it's like, where Susie was at that point in time, like she, I think, needed somebody that kind of, maybe checked a few other boxes, in those categories that we were struggling to get through. And um, so yeah, but ultimately it was like nobody was like blindsided, like, oh my God, like where's this coming from? It was kind of
Yeah.
like the writing was on the wall, like maybe we need to reevaluate this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you pivoting to first day of paradise, you get down there. Um, I was in a similar situation as you. Had a potential ex that could potentially go on the beach. First day down there, I don't know most of the people down there. My head, I panicked. I was like, "What the fuck am I doing back here?" Where is your headspace when you're like down there? You're like, all right, here I am. And it's a new format. So did that like make you feel better? New location, everything like that.
It's funny, I actually just saw earlier today somebody said that Justin was giving Joe first day on the beach. Because that's
Yeah,
exactly how I felt. I
yeah,
was like, bro, what is this?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
honestly,
terrible.
the new format was cool, right? Like, I mean, the air conditioning. They had me at air conditioning. I was like, sign me up. I'm good. Um, it was interesting. I mean, format wise, like it was so. I'm glad that I got the experience at like the OG location. It
Mm-hmm.
was weird. Like we barely touched the beach. Like it wasn't really a part of
Yeah.
paradise. Is all pool deck.
We were saying it's giving like Bachelor in
In resort,
Resort, not
yeah.
Bachelor in Paradise as
No,
much.
totally. Like there, the day beds are on the beach at the old place. Like there was
Yeah.
nobody was
You
ever
were
at the
Sandy
beach.
24/7 in the last
Right,
location.
exactly. So the location was cool, but I remember when I walked in, I really had only known Jonathan.
Yeah,
Everyone else I had never, I mean, well, Kyle was on my season, but everyone else I had never met in person, like had never spoken to, wasn't following any of these people. So I really kind of felt like an outcast. I just felt like out of place and awkward. I was just
yeah,
like, where is everyone? I felt so out of place.
Yeah, that's a tough place to be.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so then you kind of you hit it off with Lexi. Yeah, I guess tell us how that goes at the
Yeah, like who are you
beginning.
chatting with other than Lexi? Like who are you interested in those initial conversations?
Yeah, so I really only pulled Lexi and Alex. Um, when I knew I had a date card going in, so I was like, okay, I need to like put out some feelers and see,
Mm-hmm.
who I could potentially take on this date. So I only pulled, I mean, I had kind of like side conversations with people, like you're in a group and you kind of can get a vibe for somebody. And so, I was just, trying to be super intentional with my time. And I'm a pretty intuitive guy, so I kind of know like who I could vibe with and who I probably won't. That being said, I was like, I'm open to being proven wrong, but out the gates, I pulled Lexi first, and then I pulled Alex after that. And Lexi was definitely more of the serious, good head on her shoulders, intentional type of person. At least that's where our conversation went, where we were very aligned in a lot of what we were, our past relationship stuff and what we were looking for. Whereas Alex was more of the vibrant, funny, goofy personality, which is also important, right? And so I kind of had to weigh what I thought could have more longevity. And I was like, I was more intrigued with Lexi. I was like, maybe I can extract that funny side out of her. So ended up going with Lexi.
So your date gets canceled with Lexi, it gets rained out, and then you end up taking the date the next day. So how does the date go? And do you guys talk on the date? Do you talk at all about your past relationship? Because that ends up being like what
Yeah,
seems to freak her out.
we see a little bit of the start of that conversation between the two of you about, if Susie's coming down and what that's going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I didn't just randomly bring up my ex on this date.
Yeah.
It was a topic, obviously. In side conversations, because we got rained out the first day. So I guess 2 or 3 days later is when we actually had our date. And so over the course of those days, just in sidebar conversations, I knew it was a point of contention, for Lexi. And there's kind of like the elephant in the room of like, hey, where are you at with Susie? Like, here's kind of where my trepidation is. And so it was cool because I had gotten, I mean, it was a bummer that our date got rained out the first day, but it was to me almost a blessing in disguise because I got to know her a little bit better over the
Hmm.
next couple of days. So there was a there was more comfort going into that date, right? So
Yeah.
it was definitely a topic that I knew we needed to address. So I forget how on that date it came up, but I know that she had touched on her relationship. I can't remember. She had semi previously just gotten out of a relationship as well. And so, when I pulled her, that's something that she brought up. So I was like, okay, cool. Like, this seems like a great person to navigate this with, someone that is also coming out of a serious relationship, someone that's also, being very intentional and serious about pursuing someone and not just paradising, right? Like, and no shade to anyone who's doing that, like great, but that's just not what I went in it for this time around. um and so we had kind of connected on like past relationship stuff. And so you know the elephant in the room and the more serious topic for me was my relationship with Susie, right? The elephant in the room, quote unquote, and the more serious and touchy subject for Lexi was her health condition. Both of which we assured each other, like, hey, I'm not going to pry into the stuff with Susie. And I was like, hey, I will never pry into your health condition. Like, whenever you feel comfortable, it was very mutual. Like, whenever you feel comfortable touching on either one of those topics, like, I'm here to listen. And so that's kind of what it was on both sides. And so I was like, let me take this date as an opportunity to hopefully put her mind at ease and answer any questions she may have about the relationship and just be as transparent as possible. So that's really what I was trying to do on that date.
Did you know at that point that Lexi and Susie had had a conversation on the phone with one another prior to going to Paradise?
So she had told me she had told me like maybe the second day, she was like, man, like, which I thought was kind of awkward because or it was interesting because watching it back at the beginning, I think it was her that was like, wait, who's his ex again? And then I think
Yeah.
Jess was like Susie, and I was like, didn't you talk to her?
You
Yeah.
know all about me. Yeah.
Right? So I thought that was interesting. But anyway, she did tell me that she was once we had kind of hit it off, she was like, "Wow, like this is a bummer because I just feel uncomfortable." She was like, I had never spoken to Susie before, but then Ariel put us in a group chat, Lexi, Susie, and Ariel, I guess, all as kind of like a, hey, like, we're
We're
in
all
this together
potentially
type
Yeah.
of
going,
thing.
yeah.
What are we
Exactly.
wearing? Let's go.
Exactly. And she was like, Susie was so sweet. She offered to like exchange clothes and yada, yada, yada. So Lexi's whole thing was like, man, it's like a bummer. Like, I almost wish that we hadn't had that intro because then I wouldn't feel awkward about this or obligated to talk to her, or, there wouldn't be any contention there. So
Hmm.
that was kind of the extent of her telling me that, they had only talked one time prior, like very soon before we all left for Paradise.
Yeah, and we definitely see that Lexi is struggling with the Susie of it all.
Well, we don't see that till after the rose ceremony.
Well, she's expressing in her interviews, like, is this going to be a thing? Lexi knew that Susie was coming down to Paradise. Did you know
Right.
that as well? Did you and Susie have a conversation about how you were going to navigate both being there? What did you know?
Yeah, I knew that Susie was going to be there. I mean, we hadn't talked in a long, long time. But we did touch base about, Paradise once, I got the call and I was talking to producers, and obviously my biggest anxiety and stressor was like, oh, like, they were very transparent about like, hey, we reached out to Susie as well. And I'd imagine they did the same with her. So I was appreciative of that. It's not something I would want to be blindsided with. Like, it's already tough enough to do something like this with your ex. But,
Yeah.
we had a conversation and it was really along the lines of like, hey, let's call it what it like this will be really awkward and tough. And if anything, it's going to be sad. Like we're not going to be those exes where things get messy and there's any drama or anything like that. Like there's always been a ton of love and respect between us, no matter what our relationship looks like. And so I kind of had some comfort in knowing that, and I think I can say the same for her, knowing that it's not in either one of our personalities to like step on the other's toes or make them look bad or talk bad about them in interviews or anything like that, right? So it was really kind of a conversation like, hey, if we're doing this, like, let's just be the coolest exes that we can possibly be, show each other respect, and hope for the best for the other person, and that's really all we can do.
You're better off hating each other.
No, I'm
Just
telling you, dude, it's almost easier when it's like,
It
I can't stand
is.
your guts,
I'm
It is
serious. Yeah,
easier.
It's tough.
yeah,
Yeah.
because when you have that, then you're also you have another person's feelings that you are now very
Right.
aware of and worried about. Okay, so then cutting back to Lexi, now we're on episode 2, and yeah, it's kind of like she's just like, I want to pause the brakes. I want to put the brakes on this relationship
Romantically.
romantically, and it's like, why did that go down when it went down? It seemed like she was kind of well aware of the entire situation.
Yeah, as a viewer watching it, it looks like she spirals about the Susie stuff before Susie comes down to the point where she's like, I can't do this. And
Yeah.
then Susie comes down, she gets that reassurance she needs, and then is like, no, I think I can do this. Was that
Hmm.
how it felt like it played out to you? And was her pumping the brakes a shock to you when it happened?
Um, I wouldn't say it was a shock. It definitely caught me by surprise, but it all sort of tracked from things that I was picking up over the course of the prior X amount of days that I had known her. It was very tough for me to get an accurate read on Lexi for a multitude of reasons. Out the gates, I knew that she was very uncomfortable in the environment. I felt uncomfortable being there for other reasons, but I know she was very uncomfortable with the cameras. She was like, "Oh, my dad watches this with his coworkers. Like, I don't want to kiss on camera and stuff like that." So I'm like, fair, but also
That's
That
tough,
tough. That's
can't.
tough on a dating show.
tough. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna, and through it all, I just tried my best to have grace and like be gentle and kind and like help her through it, and try to be that source of comfort. I'm like, hey, I know this is awkward and uncomfortable, and then you throw in the situation with Susie, which I know that she didn't sign up for, right? So I just tried to have empathy for her because I understand if roles are reversed and I was interested in someone and their ex was coming, and now all of a sudden I'm signed up in this potential, not even triangle because, it's not like we're all, it's not like a
Yeah.
dating thing, but I know it's not something she necessarily signed up for, so I just tried to be as understanding as possible. But I was treating it like how, even though we had only known each other for maybe 4 days at this point, I was trying to be as intentional as possible and treat this like real life dating instead of like a TV show, which maybe to my detriment, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I tried to do what I could to step in and give her reassurance and show up for her without kind of overstepping or doing too much. And I know again, because of the heat, I know that she had to like go to her room a lot, but then there's other times where it felt kind of cold, where I'm like, is she just not into me or is she looking for other guys? Like, and without that communication, it was hard for me to know. And so eventually I did bring it up, but I think it was after this conversation. So all those things that I was kind of making note of and like kind of side comments about maybe waiting for other guys to come, they were all kind of adding up where it didn't come out of nowhere to me, but it still caught me by surprise. Like, all right, like I guess this is weird, but I understand where you're coming from. I think the more difficult part of that conversation for me was, I understand the trepidation as it relates to Susie coming in, but to your point, Serena, like it then became about, well, I know you're in LA trying to grow your business, and I'm in Atlanta, and I have no pl plans of moving from Atlanta. I don't know if we want the same things out of life. And so I was kind of like, hey, your feelings are valid. I get it. But to be fair, we haven't had those conversations. You haven't asked me if I'm open to relocating. You
Yeah.
haven't asked me,
Yeah.
what I want out of, family wise, how many kids, whatever. I was like, I want to have those conversations, but it's hard to build up to those more meaningful conversations when you're really not around much for us to like have those small special moments to get more comfortable with each other.
Yeah.
And that's where she did, I'll give her credit. She was like, hey, like, sorry, like I am spiraling right now, like I'm projecting, I tend to do that, and so she apologized for it. And I understood. I'm like, hey, like I get it. This is a very high stress environment, but it did kind of that part kind of caught me by surprise.
Definitely.
Was there an option for you to pivot? Like, was there anyone else? Like, were you potentially like, maybe I'll go see if something's there with Alex? Was there anyone else on the beach?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, so during that conversation as well, she made a comment where she was like, I think that maybe you should talk to other girls. She's like, maybe I want to talk to other guys. And I
Hmm.
was like, hey, totally. I was like, I'm not a psychopath. We've
Yeah,
known each
yeah,
other
yeah.
for 4 days. Like, you know what I mean? Feel free. But again, it was a bit frustrating
Yeah, yeah.
because,
That conversation was in there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that made the
yeah,
cut.
yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
told her I was like, hey, I trust me. I was like, you can talk to whoever, and in fact, like over the course of those past couple days, guys were pulling her and having conversations. But after every conversation, she would come back to me, which was reassuring to me. And new guys would come in, or Sam came in. I was like, oh, like I could see him taking you on a date, and she was like, oh, dear God, please no. So she would make comments where I'm like, oh, maybe she's not interested in people. I don't know. I thought, I don't know, but I told her, I was like, hey, like, I know myself, I'm genuinely just not interested. It's not because I'm like latching onto you. Like, I'm genuinely just not interested in anyone else here. Not to say that if new girls came in that I wouldn't explore. Like, I'm being
yeah,
realistic and honest with you, but I also am not going to just force myself to talk to somebody that I know I'm not going to be interested in. I'm not going to waste my time, right?
Yeah.
And there's nobody here that I see a romantic connection with aside from you. So why even divert my attention and go off. I was like, but that being said, you just let me know what you need from me to show you that I'm still interested while also giving you your space to do whatever you want to do.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's fair. Okay, so Susie's down there. You guys end up having like a heartfelt conversation. She tears up a little bit. What does that do to your headspace?
Um, I mean, it was definitely sad as predicted, right? Like it
Yeah.
was on one hand, it was great to see a familiar face,
Yeah,
right? It was kind of like that best friendship doesn't leave, right? We're no longer romantically involved, but it's like we still got our inside jokes. It's still me and you, right? Like we know each other so well. But again, I think it was just like a conversation that needed to happen to break the ice and just be like, hey, we're both here. It is what it is. This is going to be tough. Um, And so, it was definitely an emotional conversation. And I think more so I like was just concerned about her being comfortable. I know she like it was super awkward when she came in. I
Yeah.
know we both had high hopes for Paradise, and at that point I was like, damn, like it really feels like she's getting the short end of the stick already. Like I knew pickings were slim, so I'm like,
Yeah. Well, even
this
just the
almost doesn't
way
feel fair. Like,
the time and way she came in, obviously isn't Susie's choice. Like they send her in, but like
yeah,
even just like coming in at night, not coming in like I think like morning with a date card is always a little easier because there's that format
totally.
of okay, I'm gonna pull a few people, I'm gonna take someone. Like you have that structure. Whereas she was kind
Yeah,
of sent into just like a free night, and I would imagine
yeah.
that is hard to navigate.
Right. I'm like, everyone's tired, like it's raining.
Yeah,
I'm like, damn, like
yeah,
this is tough.
yeah.
How many nights did it rain? It looked like it was raining on you guys
Every night.
Justin,
constantly.
the rain is a problem. Like you,
Every night.
Yeah.
Like we couldn't, I mean, obviously my date got canceled. All the cocktail parties at my time, like there wasn't a single night that wasn't affected by the rain.
yeah.
That's
Even
horrible.
in like the intro credits, we see like some
Hmm.
people are dry and some people are in the rain.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was
Yeah,
crazy.
that's brutal.
Yeah.
Um,
Costa Rica rains.
all right.
Before we jump to the rose ceremony, can we just quickly touch on you have a conversation with Lexi, what appears to be at the cocktail party, kind of close to the rose ceremony
Mm.
timing wise, where she says, like, I know that I wanted to take a step back romantically, but I talked to Susie. We see their conversation. Susie reassures her, like, nothing's weird. It's all good. And
Yeah.
she then says to you, like, I'm back in. Like, I want to keep exploring. I feel way better. Where's your head
Hmm.
at after that conversation?
Well, during the conversation, I was like, man, this sounds great, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is everything I want to hear. And then I kind of took a step back and was like, wait a minute, I
It's a
forgot we
rose
have the roses
ceremony.
tonight.
Yeah. I mean,
I said,
yeah.
huh. So, once it kind of sank in, I was like, man, okay, this is, and I think because of the rain, like I just didn't have an opportunity to have a follow-up conversation with her to, and I didn't want to press her or anything like during that conversation because, it all sounded good, but I do remember kind of being like, okay, just 24 hours prior, like you wanted to put a pin in this. And it wasn't even just about this. And I was like, I understand that you admittedly like spiraled a bit, but it wasn't that it was just about the Susie factor, right? It was all the other things that got thrown out that were cause for concern on her end, where I was like, okay, so post this conversation with Susie that I wasn't there, so I don't know what transpired, but like post that conversation, now you have no hesitation about us,
Yeah.
like
Mm.
Yeah.
geographically, relationship, like none of them anymore. So that was kind of like a
Yeah.
Yeah.
moment for me of like how sudden of a 180 it was. And it'd be different if like I was really feeling like she was also pursuing me and like something was there, but the whole time it kind of felt like pulling teeth
Yeah.
to get something from her. And this was like, I mean, it's little things, right? Like this was the first time that she threw her leg up on me or like was kind of like physical and touchy with me, right? And I was just like, man, like this is what I want, but where has anything like this been this whole time?
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Do you think if that had been there, you wouldn't have done what you did by giving Susie the
Totally.
rose? Okay.
Totally. Totally.
Because it could be painted as like because Susie was going home, you felt so bad no matter what your connection in the house was, you were
No, no,
gonna
no.
save Susie.
No. So, I mean, it was such a split second decision, but in my brain, I was like, okay, on one hand, there's this person that I've known for 4 or 5 days that isn't really giving me any rhythm here. I can't
Yeah.
really get a true pulse as to how she feels about me. This person could really flip-flop and play me tomorrow when new guys come in. Aside from that cocktail party conversation, I have no real reason to believe that she really wants to pursue something with me long term, right? So there's a ton of question marks here. And she did just tell me everything that I've been wanting to hear. So I could believe it, or I could listen to my intuition that, like, is it coincidental timing with this rose ceremony? So
Yeah.
that's on one hand. And on this other hand, I have this person that I has been my best friend for an entire year. who has continued to be my best friend through dating her for over a year, right? Who I have so much love and admiration and respect for, who is one of the most selfless people that I know, who I feel like got the short end of the stick and often does in life when she tries to put herself on the back burner and do things for other people. And I have an opportunity to embody one of the most admirable characteristics that I know she has that I strive to have, right? And I could give her this opportunity to ultimately self-sacrifice and give her a chance at life because I don't think she got a fair one. Jeremy's the only guy that pulled her. Like I felt so bad. Um, and so I weighed those things out, and that's ultimately what led to my decision. I was like, hey, I can help this person out, or I can take the risk with these question marks that I have.
Right. And there had to have been also that question with Lexi of, okay, if I give my rose to Lexi, we both stay. Susie stays too. We're all on this beach together. Is this going to be, a never ending issue? Like for
Yeah,
Lexi, is she.
exactly. And here's the thing, like if and I was willing to see that through, like had Jeremy given his rose to Susie, obviously I would give my rose to Lexi and pray for the best that and take her at her word that it would no longer be an issue and that we could all coexist, but obviously that's not what happened.
Yeah.
So,
You make the decision to offer Susie your rose. Were you surprised by her reaction?
yes, I was very surprised.
Yeah, you look surprised, and she looks surprised, and everyone looks surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it was a big surprise to all parties involved and not involved,
Why do you think that
how
she
that went down.
said no to your rose?
Initially, I had no clue, because I thought that it was clear as day to me, like where my intentions were and what I was trying to do by offering that up. Um, so I was really, really taken aback, and I remember just like I kind of blacked out, like I just felt numb after that and just wanted to like escape. Like I just wanted to
Yeah.
disappear. It was just such a hard feeling to describe. But you know, thinking back on it later that night, my feelings aside, again, just knowing Susie's heart and who she is, I was like, man, because I wasn't able to have a conversation with her beforehand, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't able to like tell her what I wanted to try to do for her. So this I have to put myself in her shoes, like, oh, she's probably expecting me to give this rose to Lexi, right? And so if I know Susie, of course, like here I am trying to do something selfless for someone who is selfless. And what would the selfless thing be for her to do? Not accept the rose because she wouldn't want to step on Lexi's toes,
Yeah.
right? She wouldn't want to take a rose for somebody from somebody that she feels like deserved it, right? Because she doesn't really know the ins and outs of, I told her a little bit about what my concerns were, but she doesn't know the ins and outs of, the relationship with myself and Lexi. So when I thought back on it, I was like, oh, she's probably just doesn't want to step on her toes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Was there any part of that? It doesn't come across this way, but was there any part of that move that was potentially like, hey, maybe we could see if we could rekindle?
No, because I mean I hadn't thought too far ahead, but I knew that the next week um guys were coming in.
Yeah.
So I'm looking around and I'm like there's if do the math, there's no girls, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know exactly what I was gonna do, but I knew I wasn't gonna like twiddle my thumbs for the next 2 or 3 days whenever the next rose ceremony was. So I was like I said, self-sacrifice. I was gonna send myself home. I wasn't
Yeah.
gonna just hang around the beach. Like I was gonna get out of there.
Yeah. What was it like seeing Lexi at the premiere party for Bachelor in Paradise the other night? Where do you guys stand now?
I mean, post show, I have tried to reach out to her twice. Um, have not gotten a response back. So there were no words spoken at the premiere party.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
The silent treatment. Do you
Yeah, something
think
like
that
that.
she was standing up there expecting you 100% to be giving her the rose?
Totally. And again, like I feel bad for how that all went down. I mean, I stand by the choice that I made. Like I don't have any regrets about it. but I do feel bad.
Yeah.
And I do wish that we could have had a conversation beforehand. We weren't allowed to, right?
Yeah.
Because at that point, I really would have been like, "Hey, here are my concerns. Like the conversation that we just had earlier tonight sounds great. It's everything that I've wanted to hear, but," and I would have pressed a little bit more, right? But I didn't have the opportunity to do that, so nobody saw coming what I pulled, right? And so, post show, there's a lot of things that I knew were confusing to her that she didn't understand. And I wanted to have the opportunity to kind of fill her in on what led up to that decision and kind of tell her, what my concerns were. And I had also heard some things post show that confirmed my intuition and some suspicions that I had. And so I kind of wanted to just put it out there like, hey, this is what I was feeling during the show. This is also what I've heard. These are all the things that led me to the decision that I made, and just have that dialogue. But I totally understand not wanting to have that conversation, I guess. Like, I respect that from her. But I tried.
Yeah.
I think like if she would have pulled you to have that conversation at breakfast and you guys end up having a great day together, and then you give the rose to Susie, I'd be like, okay, that's you didn't have to do that.
Hmm.
At the cocktail party before the rose ceremony, you have that conversation for like the first time. It's kind of like, yeah, it would be very hard for me to not think like, do you just want the rose?
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like, all day I'm looking for something. And, I don't remember if it was that day or the day prior, but, as I said earlier, I was doing all these little things to try to really pursue this person as I would in the real world, right? Like, I know she has a lot of dietary restrictions. And so I would run around the resort and, talk to the people taking orders and try to make sure her stuff was like gluten free. And when she was having health issues, I would try to step in where I could without overstepping. Of like, can I get you anything? Should we go in the pool so it's a little bit cooler on your body? Like all these little things. And, eventually I was like, okay, like let me take a step back because I don't want to be doing too much here if I don't feel it being reciprocated even in the slightest. So I kind of remember taking a step back to see how she would kind of maneuver throughout, the cast or whatever. And that's the least we talked. That day
Yeah.
was like the least we had talked the entire time. So I'm like,
Yeah.
all right. And Joe, to your point, it's like if we had had that conversation earlier in the day and then the rest of the day, I'm like, okay, so I believe this, we're making strides here. Then I'm sure would have made a different decision. But at the 11th hour, it's really hard to buy it and like go all in on this person. When someone else is sitting across from me that, I really still care about, that I'm like, hey, get a fair shot at this.
Yeah.
I was able to come into paradise without having you there and try to pursue somebody. And like, that's an opportunity that I wanted for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. For
And
sure.
like it's not like it's really not working out for you. So why not give it to somebody that you actually cared about? I get
Right.
it.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was wild. You are such a comedic, lighthearted, like vibrant person. To see you on this season, from what we've seen so far, like we really are seeing a more serious side of you because you were just put in a much more serious situation.
Yeah, trust me, I'd love to be having more fun.
Yeah.
I love to
Yeah.
be cracking jokes.
Justin, we really appreciate you coming on. Love talking to you and wish you nothing but the best.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And to our listeners, make sure you download and subscribe to Bachelor Happy Hour.
We will have new and exclusive interviews every single week, so keep tuning in to Bachelor in Paradise and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for listening. Bye.